Running a marathon takes a skill and talent set that not many people are willing to train. The thought of keeping pace for hours and miles can make even top athletes sick to their stomachs. Finishing a race means training your lungs, legs, and maybe finding a racing buddy. Ultramarathon runner Dion Leonard put in all the work before he tackled a grueling run through the desert. He never expected, however, to be joined along the way by an unlikely competitor. Nevertheless, a bond between him and his new jogging buddy formed, and it led them both on an incredible months-long journey. Dion Leonard runs, like, a lot. The Australian athlete has competed in numerous marathons throughout the years, and the speedy guy wished to continue his journey toward proving his superhuman abilities in the dreaded Four Deserts races in 2016. The agonizing, annual Four Deserts Ultramarathon series involves four 250-kilometer, 155.3 miles, races that take place at different deserts around the world. While that's one giant nope for us, Leonard was enthusiastic about the challenge. Little did he know, this journey would involve a few unexpected challenges. It was when Leonard embarked on the demanding expedition that was the Gobi March that things got a bit strange. This march is a 7-day race that spans the Gobi Desert and mountains of China, and throughout that taxing week, somebody vowed to keep him company. Once the tortuous race began, the dedicated athletes noticed a beige, stray dog running beside them from a distance in the blazing desert heat. It was almost comical to see the little rascal join the humans, clearly wanting to discover what all the commotion was about. While his legs propelled him for a week straight, Leonard would look down to find said sweet, scraggly pup running closely by his side, amazingly keeping up with his impressive pace. Interestingly, the dog wasn't keeping every runner company. The canine only had eyes for Leonard. It was eccentric, endearing, and freakin' adorable all at the same time. And we weren't the only ones who couldn't look away. Leonard soon fell for the mysterious angel, who he named Gobi, after the Gobi Desert. The dog ran with Leonard for an astonishing 25 miles. After that, she understandably got a bit tired, which causes problems in a long race. When stages 4 and 5 of the race rolled around, little Gobi had to be transported to the race's finish line, where she patiently waited for her new buddy in the cool shade. She did her best. As she saw Leonard approaching the end, Gobi got up, all of her energy gained back, and crossed that infinitely distant finish line alongside her new friend. The little stray seemingly came out of nowhere, and Leonard adored the spunky pooch. Leonard was so infatuated with Gobi that he and his wife, Lucia, thought of bringing her back home to Scotland. They soon discovered that getting Gobi medically checked, put in 2 quarantines, and filling out endless piles of paperwork would take approximately 4 months. Not only would the process take months, but it would be expensive. Though it's hard to put a price on that sweet face, if you had to, it would be exactly $6,700. But Leonard felt he couldn't leave China without Gobi, so he started a crowdfunder page. The page was fully funded within 24 hours. People were just as captivated by Gobi and her love for Leonard as Leonard was himself. The unlikely friendship became a media sensation. It was set in stone. Leonard and his wife were to adopt Gobi. She would soon be their very own fur baby. But then, an unexpected bump in the road only extended the tiring process. In the midst of this adoption, Leonard and his wife went back to Scotland, patiently waiting while Gobi was kept in a house in Urumqi, China, before being sent to quarantine. That little scoundrel clearly had too much energy, as she wound up escaping. The flustered racer immediately booked a flight back to China, insistent on finding Gobi. I needed to come and do it, just to be sure in my own mind I had done it, but realistically, I was dreading having to go back home next week without her, Leonard said. Leonard wasn't playing games. With a group of dedicated volunteers, he set up a social media campaign to find Gobi, plastered flyers around the city, visited local animal shelters and parks, and chatted up taxi drivers and vendors, pleading that they relay any information regarding a tiny, latte-colored dog. Believe it or not, Leonard even went on local television, broadcasting his desperation and urgency for help regarding the mysterious dog. He knew Gobi was out there, likely roaming the streets of Urumqi, but he wasn't sure he'd ever see her again. Considering Urumqi holds 3 million people, Leonard was losing hope. The fact that it was possible Gobi galloped to the Chinese countryside, where the people speak the Uyghur language and avoid social media, probably knowing nothing of Leonard's impressive media campaign, broke his heart. Things became somber once 5 days had passed with still no sign of Gobi. It's been really difficult to remain positive in front of everyone else. I've been going back to my room every night and falling into a bit of a heap, Leonard told BBC 5 Live. But lo and behold, Leonard eventually received a phone call from a man who claimed he saw a stray dog. Him and his son brought the dog home, as they thought the lonesome pup could have been Gobi. Leonard's heart was surely racing. While Leonard was excited, he knew better than to get his hopes up. He went to the man's home, the anticipation eating at him, praying that the stray was Gobi. When he arrived, he couldn't believe his eyes. I walked into the room, and I didn't say a word. There were actually about 10 people in the room at this stage, he told the Washington Post. His heart sank. It was her. Gobi spotted me as soon as I walked in, and she started running toward me. Literally, she was running up my leg and jumping all over me and squealing with delight, he continued. Gobi spent the next 120 days in quarantine in Beijing, and she had protective eyes watching her 24/7. Since Leonard's crowdfunder page earned 4 times as much money necessary to bring Gobi home, he graciously donated the surplus to a local animal shelter. The whole ordeal inspired Leonard to write a memoir, appropriately titled Finding Gobi, a little dog with a very big heart. He even wrote a children's version of it, called Finding Gobi for Little Ones. The heartwarming story clearly spoke to so many people. Gobi proved to be an incredibly special, not to mention weird, little 4-legged angel. Now happy in her forever home, she wonders if Leonard is the only athlete willing to make big sacrifices for a small friend. Well, in a small town on the Scottish East Coast lived Dean Nicholson, a man in his 30s who only ever wanted one thing: to see the world. He had no idea that a peculiar furry friend would also be consumed by this sense of wanderlust. You see, Dean was sick and tired of his normal life, as living the 9-to-5 grind didn't suit him. He had no problem with the idea of giving it all up: his house, his job, and his hometown. Since he didn't have the means to buy a bunch of plane tickets or book fancy hotels, it wasn't easy for him to travel to all his desired destinations. But there was another way. Dean was fit and owned a high-quality bicycle. With a friend, he grabbed a globe and thought about where they wanted to go. They wanted to see France, Greece, Montenegro, Bosnia, and anywhere else in the European mainland where their bikes could take them. In September of 2018, they headed out, biked through England and took the ferry to France, where they immediately ran into trouble. The friends had to run from a pack of wild boars. This was the breaking point for Dean's friend, and he abandoned their plans and headed back home. But Dean refused to give up on his adventure and pushed on, now completely alone. The following days were a bit lonely, but then that all changed. One day, he heard a heartbreaking meow coming from the side of the road. An animal lover, he stopped to pet the cat, and couldn't believe what he saw. A beautiful kitten was dumped in the middle of nowhere, and now it looked up at him with pleading eyes. She rubbed against him, showing him love, and he knew he couldn't leave her behind. After a quick shuffle with his biking and camping equipment, the cat could ride up front and enjoy the views as they continued the journey together. Dean named her Nala, after the character in his favorite movie, The Lion King. What made Nala so special was that she was fearless and entirely trusting. She rode on the bike, slept in tents, jumped into canoes, greeted people on the way, and loved her new best friend more than anything in the world. Everywhere they went, people stopped and pointed at Nala, asking to pet her or take her picture. After all, it's not every day that a cat rides a bike. Dean even bought her a special bag with a window for when she gets tired of the attention. Still, it would soon be time to cross the Montenegro border, and Dean was worried they wouldn't let Nala through. So, he got her dewormed and vaccinated and smuggled her into the country successfully. The clever kitten didn't even make a peep. However, trouble came not long after, when Nala began to wheeze and cough. The rain and cold had given her a lung infection that needed immediate attention, so Dean found a vet as fast as he could. He couldn't lose his new friend now. Nala's treatment meant the two had to stay in one place for a while, a place that was dry and warm. Staying still made Dean uneasy, but he booked a hostel where they stayed for a few weeks, anything for his feline friend. Luckily, Nala completely recovered, and their trip continued. Things really started looking up, and they were making friends wherever they went, friends who even let them stay at their home for free. Of course, Dean and Nala always shared that same kindness with other people and animals they met on the road. They even shared their food with a group of hungry stray cats on a rainy day. It was nice Nala could play with other cats. But perhaps the greatest friend they made was a puppy who needed serious medical attention. Dean got him the treatment he needed and even found a wonderful family to adopt him. While Dean couldn't keep the puppy, he hoped Nala would always stay with him. He even invested in more equipment to keep her comfortable and safe, like a backpack to carry her and a life jacket to take her on canoes. To document his love for the little cat, he even got a tattoo of her paw, so she'd be with him forever. Can you blame him? Nala was not only adorable but full of courage and wanderlust, a rare thing for a kitten. Even though Dean never expected to become a cat dad on the road, he was so happy that he took the journey and that they found each other in their loneliest moments. Now they could take on the world together, 1 mile at a time. Of course, you don't need to ride a bike or pick up a stray to have an amazing adventure with a cat buddy. While Dean met Nala for the first time, on the other side of the world, another young man was seeing the sights with a furry friend. Rich East is a 20-something-year-old, adventurous Australian with a go-getter attitude. In 2013, the young man felt unsatisfied with his typical suburban life in Hobart, Tasmania, an island state off the continent's south coast. I used to have a career, Rich said, a house with a garden, lots of stuff, but what I didn't have was happiness. I had felt overstressed for a while, kind of stuck in a way, so I decided to make some changes. In 2013, sick of being trapped in the city, he began going on small off-roading and hiking trips around Tasmania in the company of a small stuffed lion, and another interesting companion. He was in the company of his best friend Willow. While most cats wouldn't make for the easiest travel companions, Willow loved to explore Australia with her human and didn't mind the long drives at all. Willow is very curious and loves to explore, Rich said. She spends most of her days snoozing on top of the roof rack, under the van, or sleeping in her cat carrier. On cold days you will find her snuggled up in my blankets. Willow and I have an unspoken agreement, Rich continued. She will always come back to the van, and I will always wait for her. She rarely wanders more than 100 meters from the van, but when she does, I can find her with her tracking collar. With his company sorted out, he started traveling a bit more on his days off from work. On those trips, he found a new passion, photographing all that Tasmania's natural beauty had to offer. For the first time I felt free, he said. Free to design a new life for myself. In 2014, Rich quit his job, sold his house, and bought a van. I threw away everything that didn't bring me joy. The premise was simple: build a new home in which I could travel. Camera the ready. Rich documented the renovation of the van, installing a ready-to-go bed in the back, a small kitchen in the middle, and a front seat that could turn around to make the most of his living space. Oh, and of course, a surfboard on the roof. Once the van was completed a year later, Rich bought a map of Australia, on which he drew the route he planned to take. He would have to take a ferry from Tasmania to the mainland and follow the coast all around the country. With everything packed up and ready to go, it was time to hit the road. It was hard to think about all the things that I was leaving behind, Rich said, so instead I thought about all I was taking with me and all that I would gain. I left my town and everything I knew for a new life in the unknown. The first few weeks he saw as many places as he could, surfed at different beaches, explored a variety of landscapes, and of course, met a kangaroo or two. People travel for lots of reasons, he said. For me it's simple: go somewhere I've never been before. As the journey continued, Rich slowed things down, staying in places for longer periods to truly take the time to appreciate his surroundings. He and Willow bonded on the road, and this gave him an idea. Rich invested in several cameras, tripods, and drones to film their adventures. He dabbled in photography and put together short videos. Perhaps it was his creative skills that earned the adventurers so much online attention. On the journey, Rich grew as a photographer. Aside from filming everyday tasks like driving, cooking, and hanging out, he captured all the breathtaking scenes that he and Willow stumbled upon almost every single day. And of course, Rich's favorite subject to capture was Willow. Every once in a while, he could easily snap a photo of her lounging around, but other times it took a long and careful setup and a whole lot of patience. Once Rich started to post these photos and videos on social media accounts under the name Van Cat Meow, the two gained thousands of fans. The public loved the photos so much they wanted to buy prints. Thus Van Cat Meow began sustaining itself financially. Rich's other hobbies include surfing, reading, and woodworking, the last of which was another way he made a little extra cash for gas and Meow Mix. By 2018, Van Cat Meow's YouTube channel gained over 2,000 subscribers. People were absolutely in love with Willow and Rich. With his photography skills ever improving, Van Cat Meow will surely continue to grow as long as the duo is up for more adventures. At the end of 2018, after touring the whole coast of Australia, Rich and Willow were driving inland, even going off the grid for a month in the outback. What the future holds is unclear. Will Rich settle down again or continue his travels in other countries?